Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight, the night of long faces, with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. It was a tough loss, obviously, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, but it was a great season. And there was justice. I felt there was justice in the game, if not necessarily in the series. I thought there was justice in the game. I thought the better team won the game tonight. I say that even as the Oilers had 9 grade A shots to 5 for Florida. But some of that score effects, and it was kind of a reverse of the last 2 games where the Oilers won 2 close ones. And this time they lost a close one. And I thought they were a better team the last 2 games, but not tonight. So I'm okay with the result. I don't like it as an Oilers fan, but I don't feel outraged or sad or anything like that. I'm okay with it because it made some sense. How about you?
Oh, I'm sad.
You're sad. Okay.
Very sad. Yeah, Oilers outscored Florida in the series 23-18. And they were, they came from a long way back, and they just couldn't get it done in the 7th game, and was one bounce away, honestly. And there was a few times in that third period that looked like the bounce was there to be had, and they just never could get it.
Sure did, Bruce. Sure did.
Just never could
That's
get it.
hockey too. In some ways, this reminds me of the Carolina series, like the Carolina loss.
Very much. Game
They lost the
7
first game they should have
specifically.
won, and they got on the back foot, and they never really got off it in the end. And the first game, well, we'll get into some of these different issues as they arise. This is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. And because it's a Game 7 Stanley Cup Final loss, I guess we should have 2 bad things each. Bruce, what's your good thing?
Well, I'm going to go with the one Edmonton goal, 6:44 into the first period, and with Edmonton already trailing 1-0 on the dreaded early goal against that I feared from all along, thinking Florida's played several games with a chance to win. This is Edmonton's. They're going to be a deer in the headlights for the first 5 minutes, and they were. We'll talk about that later. What they did was get that goal back on a great play by 2 guys that you wouldn't really expect great offensive hockey from. One being Cody Ceci, who made a terrific long stretch pass, aerial pass, about 4 feet in the air that came down to hit a streaking Matthias Janmark at the far blue line. And Janmark was behind the defense, and he went in, made a really nice short move to his backhand, longer move to his forehand, and snapped the puck into the Bobrovsky spot. And sorry, I got somebody knocking on my window for some reason. Garage doors open, maybe.
Oh.
Possibly. Anyway, yeah. So, why don't you do your bad thing, and I gotta go.
This could be like the first scene in a horror movie.
Yeah,
Bruce never comes back. Come back, Bruce. I'll just comment on what Bruce was saying there. My good friend Brian, who I talk to about hockey all the time. He was saying about a month ago that he didn't think the Oilers had what it took to win the cup because they were missing some ingredients. And one of the things that he was talking about in terms of the Oilers missing was a super effective pesty player like Esa Tikkanen. And I had to agree with him. I was trying to think who's going to be the Esa Tikkanen for the Oilers of this year's Stanley Cup Final, because that is a player you kind of need on your team to win. It's one of the ingredients that most really good teams have. And it turned out to be Matthias Janmark, who was sensational in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He raised his game more than any other Edmonton Oilers player in the playoffs. And that's saying a lot because Evan Bouchard shot up quite a bit. Connor Brown, Philip Broberg. There's a number of players like from where they went up significantly. But Janmark was the Esa Tikkanen of the Oilers. He really played that role so much so, Bruce. I wish he had been. We'll get into this in a little bit. A bump to a top line, maybe in this game and even previous. Like they finally got him on the third line. They finally put together a strong third line, and part of that was Adam Henrique was not healthy earlier, so they couldn't do. But when they finally did, man, that third line was it's such a great ingredient, and it's a necessary ingredient on any winning team. So good for Ken Holland in acquiring all of those players, and good for the coach finally putting them together. Would have been nice to maybe happen a bit earlier, but it did happen in the end, and that was a very, very effective line. And that was another example, Bruce, of the kind of goal you can score against a hard pressing team. And it was the only time the Oilers worked that play the whole game. Of course, it was Ceci who made the great. It was just the greatest cherry picking goal you'll see, and you can see Janmark peeling off up the ice on one of the replays and getting that pass.
It was part of the game strat. I mean, Matthias Janmark is about the furthest thing from a cherry picker I've ever seen in terms of his normal style, but clearly it was part of their strategy. Use your speed. When you get the puck, try and get behind the defense and go for the Hail Mary. And it worked again.
Yeah.
And it worked several times in the it worked last game when Janmark set up Henrique for the game-winning goal of that game. And in this game, it was he that was, behind everybody, so he went in and finished the job himself. So he had a fantastic final series in which he went 2 goals, 2 assists, plus 6 in the finals. Not to mention all that time on the penalty kill that only gave up a single goal in the series and scored 2 shorties. Like they outscored, their shorthanded unit outscored the last 2 opponents that they played in the playoffs.
Yeah. And Fogle was enough in the play, like on that first goal against, he got back enough to be a factor in the play. So that really wasn't a shorthanded goal, even like in spirit, even because, he was kind of back. Somewhat. All right. My good thing, Bruce, is one of the reasons that I'm a little bit more sanguine, I think, after the game was over, I watched the celebration of the winning team, the Florida Panthers, and I was it was moving to see how moved they were. What an effort they put in, and in their own funny way. Aaron Ekblad with his swearing on national, saying the
first
F word
5
on national.
words.
Yeah, that was really sweet. And then so Canadian, he apologized. Sorry for swearing. That was the best. But it was Paul Maurice's comment that I thought was really eloquent and moving and fantastic testimony to his father. So here's what Paul Maurice said. Said, quote, he was asked how does this feel, 30 years in the NHL, he haven't won yet. How does this feel? He says, quote, it's just brilliant. I've never hugged so many sweaty men in my entire life. I'm not sure I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it tonight. But you know what? It's not what I thought it would be. It's so much better. But it's the hugs, man. I saw Sam Bennett smile today. First time in 2 years. Yeah, he's an ornery customer, Sam Bennett.
Not going to make me smile.
It's for my mom and dad in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Then he listed other family members. All the people that suffered through 30 years of me losing and making excuses. Mom and dad especially. Hey, Dad. Your name is going up with your heroes. Beliveau, Richard, Howe, Lindsay, Maurice.
Oh, Maurice Richard is already there.
Bruce. I thought that was one of the most moving testaments to a family I've ever heard. And good for him. He got awfully crabby as the series went along. And the guy who never changed anything on his team changed a number of things. And the guy who never got crabby and was always witty and effervescent got pretty crabby. But Bruce, they had 4 cracks at it, and they finally did it. And he was the coach of the winning team, and he expressed himself. It's impressive to me when in big moments people can express themselves with eloquence in public. I think it's an underrated ability that some people possess, and he just came through in in the clutch, so to speak. You're
Yeah,
bad.
I thought he
Go
was
ahead.
talking out of his rear end after a couple of the games earlier, trying to put a positive spin on blowing the 3-0 lead in the series. I'm thinking, whatever you can do to take the pressure off your team, you're going to say it. But boy, oh boy, in the cold, harsh light of day, that statement doesn't really hold a lot of water. Well, the one tonight did. And, he's an easy guy. I know the press loves this guy, and, he's an easy guy to enjoy, but sometimes he's sort of, talking out of his rear end. But many diplomats are good at that, and many coaches are diplomats.
Some of the coaches give good quotes, and others not so
Yep,
much.
yep.
Knobloch
No,
isn't.
it's good
I
quote.
really liked Knobloch's understated quotes throughout the whole thing. Like
Mhm.
he's just his quotes are all of a piece. The Serenity Now, stoic, calm. Um, that's what you get from Knobloch, but you get something else from Paul Maurice, and we got it tonight. And I thought it was a fantastic ode to his mom and dad. All right, Bruce, your bad thing.
Yeah. Well, the start of the game, and this was something I feared greatly, and I mentioned it, I think, in the last 2 podcasts after Game 6 and the one we did with Kurt last night, that uh, the mentality for Game 7 was going to be different. That for Florida, it was going to be sort of their last chance to get their crap together and give it everything they had. And for Edmonton, it was going to be their first chance to actually win it, and that it would be sort of just a different mindset of how they would go about it, and they might come out looking like deer in the headlights. Well, I thought they came out looking like deer in the headlights for the first 5 minutes, and before they got it together, they were down 1-0, just like Carolina in '06, right? Very first shift of the game. They scored a Californian outside shot. I think it hit Jason Smith in the rear end and bounced into the net that time. This one was a cleaner goal in that their outside shot was deflected in by their own player who was completely unmarked in front of the net. So the puck went up to the sidewall, and Evan Bouchard, who was near the goal scorer, Carter Verhaeghe, just kind of drifted away from him. And Brett Kulak, not his usual partner, but they were just at the end of the penalty kill. And this is where the problem was. These are their 2 guys that they use after the penalty kill because they usually don't kill the
It's happened
penalty.
twice now this
Yep.
series. Yeah.
Yep. And they got burned again. Kulak was he had another guy on the other side, and he was kind of committed to him. And then I think he thought Bouchard had the other guy, and then Bouchard went AWOL. And then all of a sudden it's Carter Verhaeghe alone in front with the expert tip. And it was a good shot from the boards by Rodrigue, I think it was. Like it wasn't even a point shot, it was sort of a sidewall shot. He let it drift before anyone could get in his lane. And Verhaeghe made a perfect tip, but the Oilers did not defend that play well at all. And boom, one
Yeah.
nothing before you're even, into the game, really.
I didn't like Ryan McLeod on that play. Like he could have blocked if he gets stick on puck, but he got faked out by the player. He thought he was going to pass it back. He anticipated the pass to pick it off.
Yeah.
Instead of going right at the player,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a good idea to like go right at the defender and take him out, hit him.
Yeah.
And Ryan McLeod's stock went down quite a bit in these playoffs, and I think with some justice, Bruce. Like he has his good moments, but he's got to be solid on defense with his lack of offense, and he was a culprit on a number of goals against this playoff season. That was one of them. He could have done better there.
And
And
that's where he was. I mean, Fogel came out of the box, and McLeod was out there.
yeah,
And the third guy was who the heck was it? Nugent Hopkins. And they're kind of all left wingers at 5-on-5, right? And here the play came off the right wing boards, and they just didn't play it well at all.
it was. in the last podcast, you talked about the psychological issue that you were worried about. And the issue that I was worried about was a Californian against the Oilers early in the game or two. And because you just never know when they're coming, right? And they come out of nowhere and they're devastating. And it's the goal is great as a Connor McDavid breakaway on the score sheet. It's just there's you love them when your team gets them, but they're stinker goals against when they're against you, and they hurt. And the Oilers could have got some. They could have had that's what I was hoping for. All these outside shots from the Oilers through the game, I was thinking, can they not get one? Can they not get one stinker goal? Can they not get one bounce? They couldn't, and that was one of the differences in the game. The second difference, it's my bad thing, the second goal against, and it was almost, well, it's primarily on three players, I think, but it's kind of a bit of a team effort. But they were all pretty bad mistakes, I feel, on this goal against. And it reminded me, the goal comes on an outside shot from Sam Reinhart, a fairly decent shot. There was a play in Anaheim Game 7. I don't remember if it was the first or the second goal, but Anaheim had a very similar shot to beat Cam Talbot, and it cooked the Oilers in that game as well. And
Nick Ritchie.
There was Nick Ritchie, thanks.
Third period, 1-1 game. They won 2-1. And as soon as it went in, you're sort of going, uh-oh, there's still lots of time on the clock, but
it wasn't going to
melt.
It wasn't such a horrible goal that it was totally soul-crushing, deflating, like if Skinner giving away the puck behind the net, or I don't know, Bobrovsky let in a couple stinkers too. Oh, that one for McDavid when it went through his feet from a sharp angle. So it wasn't like that. It wasn't that devastating. It was, but man, three players could have done a lot better on that goal. So we'll start with Leon on the. Well, I'll start with actually Brett Kulak. It is essentially a 3-on-3, and he could have gone right to the shooter at any point. And there was a player streaking up the middle, but there was a defenseman to cover him, and Kulak's partner must have been Cece. There was someone out there to cover him, but Kulak went to him. He did not have to do that. If he had read the play properly, he would have gone to the boards, and there wouldn't have been a shot at all. Instead, Reinhart, who is a sniper, what has he scored? 50-some goals this year. 57. He has all kinds of time coming down the wing to look, pick his spot, and just as there's traffic starting to arrive, snipe a very good, difficult shot on the goalie. That's all because Kulak doesn't read the play correctly and get on that guy and get stick on puck and prevent that. And so I don't know if I've singled out Brett Kulak for my particular form of harassment at all in these playoffs, but he was the prime culprit on that goal. I did think though that Skinner had a good look at that shot. It was an outside shot, and he's got to have that shot. He's got to have that shot for the Oilers to win the game. It's not such a great shot. It's a straight on shot. He sees it all the way, make the save. But the third guy on the play, Bruce, and you signaled him initially, Draisaitl. I was thinking, really? I was thinking I'm the one who's hard on Draisaitl, but no, you pointed out that he didn't do strong back check. So the third player who rushed up was Draisaitl's man. And if Leon had just
mismatched the situation,
all he had to do, if he had hustled back, he probably could have got to Reinhart, even if Kulak didn't. He could have made up for Kulak's. That's the point of hustling back. So if there's a mistake made, you can help out stop it. But he kind of cruised back. He didn't move his feet. He was moving slowly the whole way, and the play developed. And because of that, he was like 2 feet away from Reinhart, getting a stick on Reinhart and stopping that shot himself. And if he just hustled back on the back check to win back the puck like you should in a Stanley Cup final game, not go slow, go fast. He did
later in the game, but he didn't on this play.
And that was going to be my good thing. Like that back check in the third was outstanding. If he had, and maybe he learned, right? It's tough to be learning lessons though when you just that's not the right time. You gotta make that play. And as long as the Oilers allow that kind of goal,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, they will lose games and they will lose big games that are going to hurt a lot. And I think that play in particular is going to stick with in the craw of a lot of Oilers fans and coaches and players when they think about it, because that was an unnecessary goal against. It came out of nothing.
A nothing play, yeah, and
Yeah.
just nobody really, um, what's the word? Respected the
Yeah.
57 goal scorer rushing up the wing with the puck. Well, after you, Alphonse. No, you go first, Gaston. Yeah. Boom. And that was a great shot. Like, it was an outside shot. You want your
Yes.
goalie to have it, but he put it right in a really tough spot, right in on his hip. So he's got to bring his glove down and inside because he can't really, there's no way to get a pad on it or stick out a body part other than the glove hand. And in some ways, to me, that's a tougher stop for the goalie than that one that's right inside the post or, in the top corner or whatever, where you're stretching out your glove. The one where you got to tighten up and bring it inside. Tough save, and Reinhardt just beat him. So, great shot, 57 goal score, and he got loosed to let a great shot go that our 54 goal scorer never got loose to get away a shot like that because Florida didn't allow plays like that to develop with free chances.
That's right.
And, you know,
That's why I'm not so mad, because I've seen this. How many years of the McDavid Draisaitl era have we seen this kind of play? And then we saw it again. So until you eliminate it,
yeah.
you just have to eliminate that goal against. You can't have that one. You can't have the 57 goals, 3 seconds when he crosses the blue line to pick his spot. So if you're going to allow, like, I'm not going to get upset about that. If that's how you're going to play hockey, that's on you. It's not on me. And I'm not going to get, it's their business. And until they figure it out, they lose. Sigh. Okay. What's your second bad thing?
Yeah, I'm going to just go with the end of the game, and especially the sort of 90 or so seconds after they finally got Skinner pulled, and how just nothing at all happened. They couldn't make a pass. They couldn't get the puck in. They couldn't, win a battle. And it just all was Edmonton defending with 6 players against their 5, or eventually dumping it into the corner where like seemed like 17 Panthers just piled around the puck, and it never came out of the corner for the last
Yeah.
seemed like 40 or 50 seconds. I think it was 8 seconds, but it never came out. And I just thought that whole sequence, they just couldn't make a simple pass or play, and there just didn't seem to be anything. Um, uh, if that was the final push, it was soft, and it just didn't even come close to. They had a few shots before that, but the time from the goalie pull to the end, brutal.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory about why that happened. They were gassed, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
Bruce, my second bad thing is, if you look at Kurt Levins's game grades, you're going to see a lot of 4s and 5s, and I had to agree. Connor McDavid, like a 5, Draisaitl a 5, Hyman a 5. Like, it's like 4s and 5s for all these players. And it just brought to mind, before the game, former Edmonton Oilers coach Craig McTavish was interviewed on Oilers Now, and he talked about losing Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals in 2006 to Carolina. And here's what he said. Here's his quote. Quote, that was 18 years ago, and I'm still wounded by it, more so than I was when we lost the game. I'm still whining about it because I really believe our best back in Carolina was good enough to beat their best, and we just didn't throw our best at them for whatever reason.
Absolutely. Same game.
I don't know, he says. I spent a lot of time racking my brain thinking of things we could have done differently. We all have regret and remorse that we didn't play our best hockey in Game 7. I feel terrible for guys that never ended up winning a cup that deserved one. Ryan Smith, Sean Horkoff, Alice Hemsky, Jason Smith. Nobody deserved it more than him. Fernando Pisani, Rafi Torres, Dwayne Rolfson. End of quote. So this is my bad thing, is I don't think this is the last shot at the Stanley Cup for this particular team. Um, but I do think they're going to have some serious regrets about this game and
Mhm.
about some earlier moments in the series. And but mainly about this game. They just didn't. And what you could say is maybe Florida just finally brought it. Maybe Florida
Oh, they did.
just went for it, and that's part of what happened. And maybe you could just say, well, Florida got the early California, and they got that break, and it's hard to come back from that. And fair enough. You just never know when that kind of goal against is going to score against you, and it's brutal, and it happens. And the Oilers didn't get one in return, but the Oilers and they didn't get a bounce around the net. Like when McDavid and Hyman were in close, with about 4 or 5 minutes left there, and there was two blocks by Florida defenders right in the crease, or two plays in the crease, brilliant plays that people in Florida are over the moon about right now.
Mhm.
The Oilers couldn't score in those moments. Bobrovsky was out of the play, and they just couldn't score. But there'll be some regret about trying to figure out what the heck went wrong in that game. And it's hard for me to put a finger on it. Maybe your theory is right. The psychological aspect that you've described. Maybe that's what happened. That it was kind of a stage fright
Oh,
on the
but yeah,
on
that's a good term for it.
on the cusp of winning. The enormity of winning
Mhm.
overwhelms you for a
Remember,
second.
remember how
And
bad Florida was in Game 4?
yeah,
Right? They had
yeah,
the same thing going on where they had a
yeah.
chance to, they had one hand on the trophy sort of thing, and it got overwhelming for them in that game, and they got overwhelmed. Well, Edmonton didn't get overwhelmed in this game, but I'd make the case they were probably the second best team in the game, and if it comes down to one game, I'd say they were the better team in the series, but I don't think you can make that case necessarily for Game 7.
It's the old cliche. Their best players outplayed our best players. Just no doubt about it. This game. That's what I
Hmm.
saw. All right, numbers. Bruce, what's your number?
Yeah, my number's got to be 0, and 0 is the number of points scored by the 5 members of the Edmonton power play that have been guys driving the offense for this club for a long, long time. Bouchard, no points. 17 shot attempts, no points. It seemed like Edmonton's idea of offense was to get the puck back to the blue line and fire away from there. Didn't work that well. And then 0 from Hyman, 2 shots, 3 shot attempts. 0 from Draisaitl, 0 shots. So he gets the double 0. He didn't even get a shot on net in this game. 3 shot attempts, one of which I'm not sure they credited a shot attempt because he completely whiffed a one-timer. And then another one that they said he shot wide. Actually, Forsling made a great play to get a stick on that one. I think it would have been on the net, but Forsling tipped it wide. But he just couldn't generate anything. Leon didn't have a lot going on, and I wonder about the state of his health because he didn't have a lot going on in the final series. And we've certainly seen that he's a big game player, judging off past history, but he didn't have it going on tonight. 0 points for Ryan Nugent Hopkins, 3 shot attempts, and 0 for Connor McDavid, 6 shot attempts. You add all that up, Bouchard alone had more shot attempts and more shots than the 4 big forwards combined.
And
They
he hit
kept
the
going back.
post. He
He
just
did hit the
rang
post
that
on
off
that
the
one, yeah.
post. Oh, he drove
Yeah.
that so hard.
But,
There was an opening there, and there's the game, right? Like that's
yeah.
the goal they needed.
But he
They
had 8
needed that one
shots.
to go in.
He had 8 shots blocked. There's a number for you. And 4 that missed the target, including that one that hit the post. They would count that as a miss. And there just wasn't enough offense from the guys that need to bring the offense. And I mean, lots of credit to Florida. And of course, those are the 5 guys in the power play that got one stinking chance in the entire game. I'll say a little bit of vitriol for the Hudson Bay rules that tend to dominate Game 7s, where the refs say, "Well, we don't want to affect the outcome, so we were going to do exactly that and affect the outcome by not calling the rules of the game."
Except the call on
Drives
Fogle
me
early
nuts.
on, which was
Oh,
pretty.
that was legit.
Yeah, it
plowed
was.
the guy. The one on
But
Bush, they could have called 4 minutes. The one that they did call on Kachuk was garbage. So I can't even complain about the calls that were penalties.
fair enough.
I do think there was a lot of crap going on. Of guys getting manhandled, and you know there was a few anyway. I don't want to dwell on that, though, but those five guys, I count on them to score on the power play and at even strength. And tonight they delivered among them nothing. The night the team desperately needed any kind of offense from the big players, they got nothing. So 0 is the number. 0 points, 0 Stanley Cups.
My number, Bruce, is related to a comment you made earlier in the podcast about the Oilers not getting anything done in the last couple of minutes. And I just think they were gassed. Their best players had nothing in the tank. And I think Chris Knobloch has gotten a ton of credit for the work he's done, and he deserves it. He made a number of great decisions, which some of them I disagreed with at the time, and I was clearly wrong. I think there's two mistakes that he made in the finals that when he thinks back, might haunt him a little bit. The first one is going with Ceci and Nurse in the first game. And that might have been Paul Coffey's decision, but the buck stops with Knobloch. Now, maybe Paul Bissonnette was giving Coffey credit for bringing Broberg into the lineup, which was a really gutsy maneuver. And I think the right call, a strong call to make. So Coffey, they get some right, they get some wrong. So I think whoever got the first one is CC Nurse in the first game. I think it cost them the first game, a game they would have won if they had not had that pairing together. But the second one is in the third period, and you have a line that has been excellent in this series: Henrique, Brown, and Janmark. They are going great guns. They have scored a goal at even strength. They've scored your only goal at even strength. Bruce, McDavid at even strength in the third played 9:56, Draisaitl 8:59, and Hyman 9:20. So they're out there half the period essentially. They had nothing. Absolutely, the Oilers had nothing in the tank. They had some chances, but
yeah,
by
nothing
the
in
end
the
of the
tank.
game,
Yeah.
by the end of the game, no, they were done. And part of the reason is Janmark at even strength, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Connor Brown, 2 minutes and 1 second, and Henrique 3:14. Bruce, this line should have been playing 4 or 5 minutes. Like they should have had double the ice time in the third period. They could have handled it, and they might have scored because they were the one line that was really effective, I thought, against Florida tonight. And I don't know why. I don't know why that didn't happen. It's a mystery to me that you don't reward the hot line and the hot hand and the line, and you also don't have better time management with your top line to keep them a little bit fresher as the game's going along. And I think it was a major mistake by the coach in this game.
Well, to shorten your bench, you should still have 3 lines going out there, and that was the third line. And they 2 minutes entire period. Like they did get a time on that early penalty kill, but still. And of course, he went with the Draisaitl and McDavid combination down the stretch, like happened in other games where the Oilers were trailing late, and none of them did they ever come back in the late going to generate. I don't think in the entire playoffs where they put those guys together and it actually worked in terms of turning a game around.
Yeah, in the final 10 minutes, they had Janmark was on there
not much.
3 shifts, 29 seconds, 47 seconds, and 20 seconds. Anyway, I didn't like that. Leave it there.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had more points in the series than Draisaitl did.
He should. I would have bumped him up.
He played 0-0-0 on the power play.
I would have bumped him up to play with McDavid. Put him with McDavid and Hyman. See how that goes, and let Draisaitl and Brown and someone else go at it, right? And Henrique put Draisaitl with those two guys because they're grinding away, and maybe he can finish it for them. I just think they could have been more creative, got those guys some extra shifts because they were all going and they were scoring. They were capable of scoring against Florida because they play the kind of game that can manufacture goals out of Florida's very tough man-to-man defense. Conundrum, Bruce. I hadn't thought of one.
Yeah,
Conundrum.
I did, but now I forgot.
What was it related to?
It might have been to do with the, reuniting the big guys for the third period. Or
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Draisaitl
had
that
one.
didn't seem to be very fruitful because Leon didn't seem to be Leon, right? He's just
Yeah, his best period was the third. I'll say that, but it
he
didn't
was
work.
trying. Like there's the
Yeah,
efforts there, like, but the
didn't work.
slickness, not necessarily. Yeah, I don't know if I have a
Yes.
conundrum at this point. I mean, we've
Now what?
yeah. Now what? Well, it's a good question. They've got a lot. That'll be our conundrum, I guess.
6 days and a whole lot of work to do.
New GM, contract
Maybe.
negotiations with Leon Draisaitl, contract
Yeah,
negotiations with Henrique, Brown, Janmark.
Bouchard.
Well, no, they could re-sign Bouchard too, couldn't they?
Yep. I mean,
Um,
technically, they could extend him on July 1st, just like they could Leon. So,
Not a bad idea to do so.
well, he's on a heater of a platform now, and a lot of people protested that they signed Nurse a year early after his heater of a year in 2021 when he shot, had this ridiculously high shooting percentage that year. So, I guess smart money is he wait on Bouchard and does he repeat? And if he does, then you're going to be paying him 10 to 12 million, right? And
CC made it interesting. He had his best game of the year, one of his best games of the year in this final
well,
game. I thought he was
he
good.
was okay. Yeah, he
Yeah.
really had his game face on CC. I thought he was one who showed up right from the very beginning when others around him were a little bit taken aback by the magnitude of the moment.
If nothing else, and all due respect to Cody Ceci, who I like as a player, um, a game like that will enhance his trade value, right? Like it's a lot of people are watching that game. They're thinking, geez, we could really use a veteran to
He can
solidify
make
our
stretch passes like that.
team on defense. Yeah, that's right. And yeah, what's next? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of even too, it's funny. It's not too early to think about it because they only have a few days to get cracking. But I suspect Jeff Jackson, probably a meticulous planner, although I don't know, would have a plan all drawn up by now.
Yeah.
Like he knows exactly what they're going to do, and so we may see a contract for Bouchard, a long-term deal for Bouchard, which would be fantastic. I mean, yeah, you could make the argument, but about is he going to get less hot? Like, what's going to go away in his game? I guess he is going to make the odd defensive mistake like he did tonight, but they're getting rarer and rarer, and
Yes.
his offensive play is just out of this world good. That's not going to go away. You don't lose that. So
No, he's probably a $10 million player, so they're going to have to pay him.
they're going to have to pay him. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few conundra. Anyway, one conundrum that I was encountering viewing the social media commentary after the game is on Oilers fans. Are you proud of your team? And if so, maybe knock off some of the individual commentary and vitriol on the individual players.
Going around and shooting the wounded, the
Mm-hmm.
battlefield and shooting the wounded. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
Well,
I saw that.
I criticize players all the
Yeah,
time.
oh yeah, it's part of what we do. But I mean, it's not like this guy cost us the series because he doesn't have the whatever it takes to.
Nobody cost the Oilers this series. They all cost the series at some level, and it was so close the series that it's like it came down to one Californian and one weird, one crappy goal against that, and a lack of a good bounce for your own team. This was very close.
Who's that goal in
So
it?
they could easily be celebrating tonight. Easily
Mm-hmm.
be celebrating tonight. This is hockey. It is a cruel game. It turns on the smallest of margins, one player for 1 second going in the wrong direction, the puck shooting in one direction, unexpected direction. It is a game of chaos, and agony, and I'm used to it. This is how it goes. So I'm not going to overreact. I don't think this was like the Vegas loss, Bruce, where a clear pattern
They
of
fell
behavior
short against
needed to
Vegas.
be changed,
Yeah.
and it was unrecognized. It was the team itself was unconscious, and many of the fans, including me, were just not conscious of enough of how big an issue it was. Their lack of team defense. They've been working hard on it all year, and they've done, generally speaking, an admirable job of improving their defensive play. They really have. They limited Florida 5 grade A shots in this game. This was not this was not any, and they had 6 last game. So I know it's partly the nature of these games, but the Oilers have it. They are addressing. They are going after the biggest issue on the team, and they're slowly fixing it. So I think that's going to get better. That's going to get tighter. They're going to think about it more and get even stronger in that regard. My prediction.
They
So
gave up 4 power play goals in 4 series.
exactly.
You know, like there was some real strong performances on the defensive side of things.
It really was.
There's a lot going on there. The conundrums are: who do you keep? Who can't you keep? How do you replace them? And who does the replacing? I think that's kind of the first one. I think probably Ken Holland's. I mean, his 5 years are up. I can't see him personally getting an extension. There was some talk about that, but maybe they won.
I could see maybe 1 year. Like, it depends. Let's say Jeff Jackson wants to be the GM himself, which I don't rule out personally. I don't know why we would rule it out.
And he just does it, doesn't he?
Well, why doesn't he have Ken Holland there working with Ken Holland? You can still be GM. You call yourself GM. We'll work together, and I'll have 1 more year soaking up everything you know, which is a lot, which is considerable, and all your contacts. I'll go through your Rolodex. People don't have Rolodexes anymore, but Jeff Jackson has a pretty good
of NHL guide and record books.
Yeah, Jeff Jackson has a pretty good phone list, I'm sure, already, contact list. But anyway, I could see him getting another year for Holland, or maybe they'll bring in someone who's kind of an exciting, interesting pick as the GM.
He's made some off the board moves for sure.
Well, Knobloch.
Yeah, Knobloch being the prime example, but some of these other guys that he's brought in, the player personnel department and so on are, who's that guy? And then you read the guy's bona fides, and they're really strong. It's like, I haven't heard of this guy, but
the player development guy they brought in, and George Mumford, the psychologist they brought in,
stuff like that.
So
yeah, I don't think Jackson will ever sort of be named as the GM. I think he's happy in his position, but I'm anticipating a new GM who will work closely with Jeff Jackson. And, there will be he'll certainly have his finger on the pulse of what decisions are going down. But now it's a tough one. They went all the way to June 24th. Already the opening game of next season is like right around the corner in like 3 months. Got to be ready to go for a whole another 82 game grind. If I was to draw one thing from this season, it would be don't suck at the beginning of the season and actually win home ice advantage in the playoffs. Like, sure could have used it tonight, David.
Sure could have,
and they actually outpointed all these other teams for the last 5 months of the season, but because they sucked in the first month, they were playing on the road in all these series, and I'm not saying it was a difference in this game, but I sure would have rather had it on home ice. And after losing 2-1 in games, or 3-1 in Game 7 at Carolina in 2006 with an empty netter by Justin Williams, who I still hate for that, and 2-1 in Game 7 at Anaheim when they lost the division title by 2 points in 2017, and now 2-1 at Florida in 2024.
Any other random players?
Sure would be nice to have those games in your own barn.
Yes, it would. Any other random players that you hate, Bruce, from the deep dark past? I'm kidding. I don't.
Oh, I got a lot
I
of
know you got a
players.
long list, so we won't
I
get
got a
into it.
long list, but
I
Justin
it's
Williams,
okay.
it was just he got the breakaway in the empty net, and he was celebrating while he was on the breakaway. Which, in retrospect, I honestly don't blame him. He was about to win the Stanley Cup, but man, did that ever hurt? Hang on, what are you doing? So it's just
Oh,
one of
that's
those
great.
irrational
Yeah,
things
no,
that
that's good that you remember stuff like that and still hold a grudge.
Mr. Game 7, he was there, Cody Cece, I guess, eh?
Yeah, that was a very nice pass from Cody Cece. Good for him.
Mr. Game 7. I just need a couple more of those guys, apparently.
Yeah. Bruce,
Thank
let's
you.
call it a night. Thanks for talking.
Right. Thanks for listening all year long, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you to the faithful for sticking with us and sticking with the
Keep the faith.
podcast.
Don't
Keep the
take
faith.
this time to crap on the players because something went wrong in the big game tonight. This team did Edmonton proud, and they gave Edmonton hockey fans a huge amount of entertainment this season. Let's keep the eye on the big ball, which is that.
Yeah. Tough loss, great season.
Oh.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.